for it. And my boys are just going to get as big as Amanda's boys, so they need room.
Tammy Slaton's story has always been intense, unpredictable, and emotionally charged, but nothing prepared fans, her family, or even the doctors for the terrifying turn her journey would take after what was supposed to be one of the biggest victories of her life. What began as a celebratory milestone, her long-awaited skin removal surgery, quickly spiraled into a life-threatening emergency. A moment meant to symbolize freedom, healing, and transformation suddenly became a race against time, a battle not just for recovery, but for survival itself. This is the story of the night everything changed. This is the moment Tammy Slaton's life hung by a thread. A dream years in the making. 4 years, Tammy carried the weight of not just her body, but the weight of every judgment, every mistake, every fear, and every health warning that followed her. She had once tipped the scales at over 700 pounds. She had fought against addiction, depression, respiratory failure, and the constant fear that every breath could be her last. Doctors had long warned her, "You won't make it past 35 if you continue like this." But Tammy defied those odds. She survived a medically induced coma. She fought her way back from the brink of death. She underwent weight loss surgery. She shed hundreds of pounds. And she pushed herself harder than she ever had in her entire life. So when she finally qualified for skin removal surgery, the surgery she had dreamed of for years, it felt like destiny. Like victory. Like the moment she had been working toward since the very beginning of 1,000 Pound Sisters. Her family was excited. Fans were celebrating. Tammy herself felt reborn. But that joy lasted only hours. The sudden downfall. Shortly after waking up from the surgery, Tammy began to feel different. Something wasn't right. At first, the symptoms were subtle: fatigue, dizziness, shallow breathing. But then everything escalated. Her fever spiked dangerously high. Her oxygen levels dropped. She struggled to take in air. Her skin grew clammy, and alarms began sounding throughout the post-op unit. Nurses rushed around her bed. Doctors were paged urgently. The celebration evaporated into panic. Within minutes, Tammy was rushed back into the hospital. The atmosphere turned from victory to chaos. One family insider later said, "We thought we were going to lose her right then and there. This wasn't just a complication. This was a medical emergency. Transferred to intensive care." Doctors made the quick decision to move Tammy into the ICU. Her condition had become critical, and the team knew this was going to be a fight. They suspected a post-surgical infection. They feared respiratory failure. They worried her organs were struggling. And given Tammy's medical history, even a small setback could turn deadly. Inside the ICU, as machines beeped and monitors flashed, Tammy lay fragile, exhausted, and in pain. This was one of the lowest points of her journey, a moment when her past struggles collided violently with her future hopes. That's when the doctors delivered the words that shook her family to their core. "It's almost impossible to save her unless she follows every single rule. No exceptions." The margin for error was zero. Every instruction, every meal, every medication, every ounce of movement. Everything mattered now. One wrong move, one skipped step, one minor lapse in care could send her spiraling into organ failure or septic shock. This was life or death. Family breakdown at the hospital. Her family rushed to the hospital the moment they heard the news. The long hallways of the ICU echoed with fear, silence, and the weight of uncertainty. Amy's breakdown. When Amy saw her sister hooked to machines again, something she thought they had finally left in the past, she broke down. Witnesses said she cried uncontrollably, unable to believe they were facing this nightmare again. Amy was heard saying, this was supposed to be the beginning of her new life, not the end of it. For years, Amy had been Tammy's supporter, caretaker, and sometimes even her toughest critic. But in that moment, she wasn't a reality TV star. She wasn't a castmate. She was just a sister terrified of losing someone she loved. Chris's fear. Chris, the constant motivator and the steady rock of the family, wasn't his usual strong self either. He looked drained, pale, and shaken. He reportedly said, "We've watched Tammy fight through the worst. But this is different. This is real life or death. It wasn't just fear. It was heartbreak. Because after everything Tammy had survived, after everything she had overcome, it seemed insane, almost cruel, that the moment meant to symbolize her victory was now threatening her life. Inside Tammy's room, doctors gathered with her family and laid out the truth. Yes, the surgery was successful. Yes, she had come a long way. Yes, she was stronger than she once was. But the danger wasn't over. If anything, it had just begun. The doctor explained. This is the most delicate stage. The surgery was step 1. Recovery is step 2, and it's far harder. Tammy does not have the luxury of mistakes. Her body was exhausted. Her breathing was unstable. Her immune system was weak. Her surgical wounds were vulnerable. One infection could spread rapidly. One breathing issue could lead to collapse. One skipped treatment could be fatal. Tammy was now walking the thinnest possible line between recovery and tragedy. The high-risk road ahead. Tammy's team outlined a strict recovery program. No cheating on her post-surgery diet. No skipping wound cleanings. No ignoring breathing treatments. No avoiding mobility exercises. No deviations, not even once. Everything had to be precise. Everything had to be perfect. The doctor's final warning was chilling. If she strays even a little, she won't survive this. Those words echoed through the family like a shockwave. Fans react to the emergency. As news of Tammy's hospitalization leaked online, social media exploded. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook were flooded with messages. Stay strong, Tammy. You've come too far to stop now. This is heartbreaking. I never thought I'd cry over a reality TV star, but I am. This isn't entertainment anymore. This is a real human fighting for her life. For years, viewers had watched Tammy struggle publicly. Many criticized her, mocked her, doubted her. But now the tone had shifted. People weren't laughing. They weren't judging. They were scared. They were hopeful. And they were united in one message. Fight, Tammy. Please fight. Cameras pause filming. TLC reportedly halted filming out of respect for the seriousness of Tammy's condition. The crew had been with her through weight loss, relapse, addiction, therapy, and recovery. But right now, they knew this was not a moment for television. This was private. This was scary. This was real. The emotional aftermath will likely be seen in future episodes, but for now, the cameras were off. Tammy's life mattered more than a storyline. Flashbacks of her hardest battles. As Tammy lay in the ICU, you couldn't help but think about everything she had already survived. The years stuck in her bed. The 720-pound peak. The near-death breathing episodes. The addiction cycles. The depression that nearly consumed her. The coma that almost claimed her life. The tracheotomy. The months in rehab. The weight loss surgery. The grueling recovery. The physical therapy. The emotional battles. She had made it through all of that. But now she was facing something even more terrifying. The possibility that her own body might give up when she finally felt ready to live. A fighter since day one. Tammy Slaton has been many things. A patient. A viral sensation. A controversial figure. A fan favorite. A survivor. But above all, she has always been a fighter. Even when she didn't believe in herself. Even when the world didn't believe in her. Even when her own health was failing her. Every time she got knocked down, she stood back up. And now, lying in a hospital bed with machines monitoring every breath, she faced the greatest test of her strength. The world holds its breath. As of now, Tammy remains in the hospital, surrounded by her family and a medical team working around the clock. This is the most fragile chapter of her journey. The most dangerous. The most unpredictable. Every hour matters. Every decision matters. Every breath matters. Her story has always been emotional, inspiring, and controversial, but this moment is different. This is no longer about TV. This is no longer about fame. This is no longer about transformation. This is about survival. And the world is watching, waiting, and praying that this time, just like every time before, Tammy Slaton finds a way to fight her way back. A final message to Tammy. Tammy, if you ever see this, you have survived the impossible. You have overcome what many believed you never could. You have fought battles that most people would never understand. This is just one more fight. One more monster to overcome. One more mountain to climb. Follow the rules. Stay strong. Hold on. Because you deserve the life you've been fighting for. And millions of people around the world are rooting for you to win. Tammy Slaton, the transformation no one believed was possible. There are stories that inspire. There are stories that shock. And then, there is the story of Tammy Slaton, a woman who went from being written off by doctors, mocked by strangers, and trapped inside her own body, to defying every expectation ever placed upon her. This is not just a weight loss story. This is not just reality TV drama. This is a human being who rebuilt her entire life piece by piece, even after losing almost everything. Today, Tammy Slaton is nearly unrecognizable. But to understand how far she's come, you have to understand how close she came to losing everything. This is her transformation. Chapter 1. Rock bottom, entering rehab at over 700 pounds. When Tammy first entered rehab, she weighed over 700 pounds. Her life was hanging on a thread. She struggled to breathe without a machine. She couldn't walk more than a few steps. She couldn't shower on her own. Every day felt like a battle she was losing. Doctors warned her again and again. You won't make it to 35. Her family begged her to get help. Fans held their breath every season. And Tammy, she was exhausted, physically, mentally, emotionally. But something inside her shifted. Somewhere in the middle of the chaos, pain, and near-death scares, Tammy decided to fight. So she checked herself into a long-term rehab facility. Not for a week. Not for a month. But for 14 months. 14 months of detoxing from food addiction. 14 months of therapy, counseling, and brutal honesty. 14 months of rebuilding her body, 1 pound at a time. Most people gave up on her. But Tammy didn't give up on herself. She fought. Harder than she had ever fought before. Chapter 2. The weight falls off slowly at first, then like a storm. Her transformation didn't happen overnight. At first, she lost a few pounds. 20, 30, maybe 40. Then the numbers started dropping faster. 100 pounds gone. Then 200. Then 300. Her mobility improved. She began walking longer distances, then walking without help, then walking without gasping for air. She started breathing without a ventilator. She started laughing again. She started feeling alive again. By early 2024, Tammy had lost over 500 pounds. Fans were stunned. Doctors were stunned. Even Tammy seemed stunned. The before and after photos went viral. People couldn't believe the difference. This wasn't a small change. This was a complete rebirth. But the physical transformation wasn't the only thing happening. Something inside Tammy was changing too. Chapter 3. A new spirit, a new Tammy. As the weight dropped, Tammy's personality came back to life. Her face grew slimmer, but her eyes grew brighter. She smiled more. She danced on TikTok. She joked with fans. She talked openly about her struggles. People were no longer watching her fail. People were watching her rise. For the first time in her life, Tammy felt hope. But life, as always, had its own plans. Chapter 4. Unexpected love and a heartbreaking loss. While still in rehab, Tammy met Caleb Willingham. He was also a patient. He was also battling his own demons. And in the middle of one of the darkest chapters of her life, Tammy found love. Their romance grew quickly. They supported one another. They laughed together. They understood each other in ways no one else could. And then Caleb proposed. The two were married in a small but emotional ceremony inside the rehab facility. Tammy wore a dress she loved. Her family cried tears of joy. Fans celebrated with her online. For once, everything felt right. But just months later, tragedy struck. Caleb passed away unexpectedly in 2023. Tammy was crushed. She went silent on social media. She grieved privately. She later admitted that Caleb's death broke her soul. She had finally found happiness, and it was ripped away from her. People expected her to fall apart. People expected her to relapse. But Tammy surprised them all. Chapter 5. Choosing strength, the transformation continues. Instead of collapsing under the weight of grief, Tammy came back stronger. She began talking openly about mental health, about grief, about the importance of healing. She told fans, "Yes, I lost weight. But what I gained inside matters more." Her emotional transformation was powerful. She was no longer angry. She was no longer defensive. She was no longer stuck in her past. She wasn't trapped in her body. And she wasn't trapped in her mind. Tammy became a different woman. A better woman. A stronger woman. Her social media photos showed a bright, confident version of herself. She shopped on her own. She cooked. She walked into restaurants. She laughed with strangers. She posted selfies without filters. She became vibrant, funny, sharp, unapologetic. The same fans who once doubted she'd survive were now cheering her on as she thrived. Chapter 6. Fame, the Blessing and the Curse. When Tammy first appeared on 1,000 Sisters, she was overwhelmed by sudden fame. Millions watched her struggle. Memes were made about her. People mocked her online. Every pound she gained or lost became a topic of conversation. Fame nearly destroyed her. But as she transformed, something incredible happened. Fame became her motivation, not her downfall. She used her platform to inspire others. She spoke honestly about her pain. She shared her victories and mistakes. She became a voice for people battling obesity, addiction, and depression. Tammy finally understood her purpose. She wasn't just a reality TV star. She wasn't just a viral clip. She wasn't just a cautionary tale. She was a survivor, a fighter, a symbol of what happens when you refuse to give up. Tammy is now entering a new chapter of her life. She's 39 years old, an age doctors once said she would never reach. She's healthier, stronger, and more confident than ever. Her weight loss continues, but that's not the point anymore. Her life is no longer defined by numbers. Not on the scale. Not on her oxygen machine. Not on a calorie chart. Her life is defined by her courage, her growth, her willingness to start again over and over even when the world doubts her. Tammy didn't just lose 500 pounds. She gained an entirely new life. Chapter 8. The public appearance that shocked the world. Recently, Tammy made a rare public appearance after undergoing skin removal surgery. And the internet exploded. She was unrecognizable. Gone was the woman who used to be wheeled into appointments. Gone was the woman gasping for air. Gone was the woman hidden under layers of fear, pain, and insecurities. In her place stood a woman, standing tall, walking with confidence, wearing stylish clothes, smiling like someone who finally knows her worth. Her skin removal results were dramatic. Her posture was better. Her body shape was completely transformed. Photos went viral within minutes. Comments poured in. "That's not Tammy. She looks amazing. This woman just proved everyone wrong. I'm crying. This is beyond inspiring." For fans who had watched her from season 1, the transformation was emotional. This wasn't just physical change. This was spiritual, mental, and emotional rebirth. Tammy wasn't just surviving anymore. She was living. Chapter 9. Near-death scare and another fight for survival. Not long after the surgery, Tammy faced one more terrifying battle. Post-surgery complications sent her back to the hospital. She struggled to breathe. Her fever spiked. Doctors feared infection. She was rushed to the ICU. Her family was terrified. Fans were devastated. And doctors warned her, "Follow every rule, or you won't survive this." The margin for error was zero. But Tammy, she followed every rule. Every therapy session. Every diet. Every breathing treatment. And once again, she survived. Chapter 10. a symbol of strength. Today, Tammy Slaton is a completely different person. Physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. She is a woman who hit rock bottom more than once and climbed back up every single time. She is proof that transformation is possible even when the world says it isn't. She is proof that it's never too late to start over. She is proof that strength doesn't come from perfection. It comes from survival. And Tammy Slaton? She survived everything. Except maybe the expectations people once had of her. Because she didn't just transform her body. She transformed her destiny. Ending message. From 700 pounds to a brand new life. From hospital beds to walking independently. From grief and loss to growth and power. From being judged to being celebrated. Tammy Slaton has become a symbol of resilience, hope, and second chances. And her story? It's not over. It's just beginning. Tammy is now entering a new chapter of her life. It has been 39 years old, and age doctors once said she would never reach. She's the moment that shocked fans the most and more confident than ever. It was the moment she proved everyone wrong. But that's not the point anymore. After years of struggling with her life is no longer defined by numbers. Depression, not on the scale her life more than once. Not on her oxygen transformation reached not on a calorie chart. Her life is defined by removal surgery, her courage, what was meant to be a final victory, her willingness to start again over and over, even unforgettable moment, one that left everyone holding their breath. 500 pounds. For years, she gained an entirely new life. Her oxygen levels were dangerously low. The public appearance that her body was shutting down. Recently, doctors warned her bluntly. Public appearance she was a walking after undergoing skin removal and everyone surgery. Watching could and see it. And the internet exploded. Every breath looked painful. She was unrecognizable. Every step looked impossible. Gone was the woman who she had reached what she herself called rock bottom. Gone was the woman gasping can be a strange thing. Gone was the woman hidden under layers of fear, fight, pain, for Tammy. It started hers. In her place, in a rare moment of clarity, standing tall, Tammy decided to enter rehab with confidence, not just to lose weight, wearing stylish clothes, control of a life, smiling like someone who finally knows her worth. What followed was one of the most difficult periods she had ever endured. Her posture was better. Therapy. Her body shape was completely transformed. Months of mental and emotional rebuilding went viral within minutes. She worked harder than she ever had. Poured in, and slowly, that's not Tammy. Her body began to change. She looks amazing. She became eligible just for bariatric everyone surgery. Wrong. A moment many believed she would never reach. This is beyond inspiring. Fans watched in disbelief who had as she continued losing weight. Over 500 pounds was emotional. A number that doesn't even feel real. This was spiritual, that represents mental, not just emotional rebirth, survival. Tammy wasn't just surviving anymore. Everyone had been waiting for. Skin removal surgery, near-death scare, the ultimate and another symbol of her transformation. Not long after the surgery, she could feel, Tammy faced one more terrifying battle. A surgery she had dreamed of long before she ever believed she could qualify. She struggled to breathe. Isn't small. Her fever spiked. It's not cosmetic. Doctors feared infection. Intense, dangerous. She was rushed even to the ICU for someone with Tammy's medical history. Her family was terrified. Skin removal fans can were devastated. Hours, sometimes and requiring multiple surgeons and a follow team monitoring every organ. Or you won't survive this. And for the Tammy, margin for whose error body had been through war, but this was a battle all on its own. She followed every rule. Yet she was ready. Every therapy session, yes. Every diet, terrified. Every breathing treatment, but ready. And once again, her sister, Tammy Slaton, knew exactly how important a symbol of strength. The two have always had a complicated relationship filled with love, fights, physically, trauma, emotionally, and deep mentally. But when Amy saw Tammy after the surgery, who hit rock bottom more than once, she didn't just see and her climbed back up every single time. She saw the impossible. She saw a woman who had survived everything thrown even when the world says it isn't. Depression. She is proof that it's never too late to start over. Strong. She is proof that strength doesn't come from perfection. Chin. It comes from survival. And Tammy Slaton on every area. She survived. Her body simply couldn't handle that much trauma the expectations people once had of her. The surgery because took she didn't just transform her body. Nurses came in and transformed her giving destiny. The family updates. Ending message. Every minute felt like an hour. £700 the waiting room was filled with fear. From hospital beds and an uncomfortable silence that only happens when something truly life-changing is taking place. From being judged to being celebrated. Halfway through the surgery, Tammy Slaton has become a symbol of resilience. A missing pin that the surgical team could not locate. And her story, procedure stretched no longer. Her family was restless, pacing, anxiously waiting for any sign that Tammy was okay. When the doctor finally emerged, exhausted but calm, he delivered the news. 10.5 pounds of excess skin had been removed. And Tammy was stable. Chris Combs, her brother, admitted later that he had been terrified to see her in the hospital bed. Seeing someone you love in such a vulnerable state is never easy. But all that mattered was that Tammy was awake. She was breathing. She had survived. The next morning shocked everyone. Tammy looked transformed. Even under the swelling and bandages, her face had changed. Her arms were smooth. Her stomach was flatter. She touched her arms, feeling skin that was no longer hanging, and she smiled a small, surprised smile that said more than words ever could. She looked in the mirror for the first time, and even she couldn't believe it. "It feels so weird," she whispered. "I don't have my hanging on my face. My bat wings are gone." She laughed through tears, overwhelmed but proud. 2 weeks later, Tammy returned home to Kentucky. As she stepped out of the vehicle, her family surrounded her with balloons, flowers, and gasps of disbelief. Even from a distance, the difference was undeniable. "Even blind, you could see it," Amy said. Her mother and siblings stood frozen, stunned by how much she had changed. Misty, overwhelmed and emotional, said, "When she was 730 pounds, we couldn't even get her to walk to the mailbox. Now she's lost 500 pounds. That's not one person, that's a couple people. I am so proud of her. It's unreal." Meanwhile, Tammy's personal life had taken an unexpected turn. She revealed she was in a relationship, this time with a woman named Andrea. Her family wasn't shocked. If anything, they celebrated it. Amy and Amanda both agreed they had always sensed Tammy might end up with a woman. What mattered wasn't the gender, it was happiness. Andrea couldn't be at the surgery due to work, but she sent flowers, reminding Tammy she cared. Tammy felt hopeful, but cautious. She had been used before. She had been loved for the wrong reasons. She wasn't ready to fully trust yet, but she was ready to try again. But while Tammy was healing, Amy was facing her own battles. The pressure of planning her wedding, especially after her family rejected her haunted house idea, left her feeling suffocated. She joked that her family was criticizing everything, even how she breathes. She felt like the black sheep, never fully understood, always judged. But she wasn't willing to let anyone steal her joy. She explored other venues, looked at backup ideas, and tried to create something that represented her personality. Spooky, strange, fun, and unapologetically her. "This has been a wonderful day," she said at a wedding expo, relieved that someone was finally listening instead of shutting down her ideas. "They actually let me talk." Through all of it, weddings, surgeries, relationships, fights, successes, the Slaton family remained what they've always been: chaotic, emotional, loyal, messy, loving, dramatic, and deeply connected. But no matter what else is happening around them, one thing is clear. Tammy Slaton has rewritten her story. From rock bottom to recovery. From addiction to discipline. From being written off to becoming an inspiration. Tammy is no longer the person people mocked online. She's no longer the woman who could barely breathe or walk. She's no longer the patient fighting for her life in a hospital bed. She is a survivor, a fighter, and a reminder that transformation isn't just physical, it's mental, emotional, spiritual. As fans await her first full interview post-surgery and the next season of 1,000 Pound Sisters, which promises never-before-seen footage of her surgery and its aftermath, one thing is certain. This is not just reality TV anymore. It's real. It's raw. And it's absolutely inspiring.